no, you should not ask me whether it is halal or haram, because you did not allow me, you did not leave any option for me to tell you this is haram, so go to the other option which is halal. You are just giving me one option, which is I have to go and collect my children and to drop them, and I have to drive a very long distance. So for that case, what is the ruling? There is no need to tell her a ruling. You need to tell her, fear Allah as much as you can, and of course this is the only ruling for you, which is halal to do it, but fear Allah as much as you can. Yesterday a sister asked me about her mother is in India, and she's getting treatment in India, and she is facing a difficult situation, and her mother is unable to pick her, is unable to travel alone, and her father passed away, and her brother is not willing to pick his mother from India or Pakistan, and her mother is ill, as we said, she cannot travel alone. And she said, is it allowed for me to travel all the way to Pakistan or India or Bangladesh to bring her here? I said, but what are the available options for you? She said, either to travel to pick her up or just to leave her. I said, if you leave her, then she said, well, she might die, something wrong might happen to her. Then I told her, sister, then don't ask me. You know the question, you know the answer, you know the situation, you judge yourself. Don't wait from the sheikh to say it is allowed for you, so you use this as a justification for what you want to do. So in general, in the contemporary situation, brothers and sisters, before giving a ruling, we have to explore all possible options. And that is exactly, brothers, is based on a ruling that the scholars put, which is al-umuru bima'alatiha. The umur are dictated by the end. The matters are dictated, the ruling of any matter is dictated by the end of this matter. If this matter is leading to something haram, then this matter is haram. If this matter is leading to something is halal, then it is halal. If this matter is ending with this situation, then you have to look at this situation before giving the verdict on this matter itself. So, and if you remember hadith Thumama ibn Athal, one of the he was one of the mushrikeen of Bani Hanifa, and he was like a king of his people. He came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he is a very interesting story. He has a very interesting story, and we will come through his story in a few minutes. But in part of his story, he asked the Prophet ﷺ about the eating in the utensils of the people of the book. He said to the Prophet ﷺ, "Inna bi'ardi qawmin ahli kitab, afana'kulu fi aniyatihim." We are living in the land of the people of the book. Should we eat in their utensils? طبعا this means that should we eat in their utensils without washing them? In the past, don't imagine that they have plenty of water, they can wash the dishes immediately after they eat in it. So he asked the Prophet ﷺ, what was the answer of the Prophet ﷺ? Said, if you don't find other than these utensils, then eat in them and make sure you wash them. So what did he say to him? If you don't find other options for you, so you have to explore other options for you before coming up with a conclusion. Anyway, this is an example, but the examples of the Prophet ﷺ, where he used to explore all possible options for the one who is asking something about something before giving him the answer. So once we speak about the ruling of the Hijrah, we have to explore all options for Muslims living in the West. Actually, brothers and sisters, we have to explore all options for Muslims living in what? Not only in the West, but in Kufr country, in all Kufr country, including the West, including China, including Sri Lanka, including India, and all other countries, not only in the West. Because actually, Muslims in in other than the Western countries, they are facing more difficult situations than Muslims living in the West. And maybe the population of Muslims living in China alone is far greater than the Muslims living in the West. At least they said 50 million Muslims living in China. And according to some statistics, actually 100 million Muslim is living in China. So what is the ruling of those? And you know that in India, at least 200 or 150 million Muslims is living in or are living in India. So what is the ruling of those? Including what is the ruling of Muslims living in the West. So what are the options for them? Let us talk about the options available for Muslims living in the West, and let us talk about Britain. Options available for Muslims living in Britain. Before, as I said, before giving the ruling of the permissibility of living in the West or in non-Muslim countries. What are those options? According to what I have seen and according to my own study, the options are mainly two options. Either to go back to their home countries or to go back to some other Muslim countries. And I don't think that there is any other option. We are not talking about them to reside here. No, we are talking about if they want to leave this country or Western countries, then where to live. So either to go back to their home countries or to go back to other Muslim countries such as Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Emirates or Qatar. Now let us take the example of Muslims, the first option, which is Muslims to go back to their original countries. Original countries, as you know, here most of the Muslims living here are coming from Pakistan, are having Pakistani origins, and many of them also have Bangladeshi origin, and also the third biggest Muslim population is coming from India. Now let us take it one by one. Muslims living in India or Muslims coming from India. As you know, that India is not a Muslim country, is a kufr country, is a kafir country. And you cannot say that Muslims there living in a way better than Muslims living here in the UK. There are some aspects where the situation of Muslims in India is better than the situation of Muslims living in the UK, and there are some aspects where you can say that Muslims living in the UK is better or are better than those aspects of Muslims living in India. For example, in India, the adhan can be raised up loudly in most of the masajid, in most of the cities. I'm sure you can confirm that. Another example is the Muslim personal law. Muslim personal law is not well recognized among the Indian judicial system, but it is partially recognized under the tribunal system. There is an ongoing debate about it, but at least Muslims are adopting with this situation and they are living with that. These are two main advantages. Of course, Muslims there can preach their religion, and they can also make da'wah, and they can implement other aspects of their religion. However, Muslims there cannot implement the penal code. They cannot cut the hand of the thief, they cannot stone the adulteress, they cannot lash the one who drinks, etc. Even for Muslims cannot do this for Muslims. So there are some aspects that are not present there. Moreover, sometimes, as you know, the bloodshed that took place in Assam, and even recently in Gujarat, where some Hindu Gujarati attacked some Muslim villages and killed so many Muslims living there. So there are some aspects where Muslims are being killed, prosecuted in India.